gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai, pianist, and this is part 2 of the cafe, and our guest again is Brad Boshart. He was here in the first part 1 of the show, and so now we're doing part 2. And I think instead of playing Bert Bacharach's This Guy's in Love with You, I'm going to have fun with I Got You, Babe. Sonny
There you go.
You remember that one?
There you go. Do some Sonny and Cher.
Yeah, let me...
In classical form, I take it.
Yes, let me get hooked up here. Forgot to put that on. It's been a while since I've done this song, so let's have fun with it. There you go.
That was a cool twist on
Yeah, that's
You,
not a
Babe.
song you hear every day, much less a song on the piano. I Got You, Babe,
Nope.
Sonny and Cher.
It would take a minute for the untrained ear to figure out that was I Got You, Babe.
Well, I hadn't done that song in a while, so it was kind of fun to try to bring that back to
It was
life.
cool. I liked it. I've never heard that in that form.
There are a lot of songs that I play in that classical format that you just don't hear, like when I did the Painted Black earlier. So.
Yeah.
But speaking of Sonny and Cher, I used to watch that show when I was a little boy.
Me too.
I'm dating myself there with that.
Who didn't watch Cher when they were a little boy? No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Well, that's the truth.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, she's still hot.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
She's aging well.
Yes, she is.
We are all aging well, I think.
Hopefully, yeah, but we don't all look like Cher, obviously.
No,
but
no, we'd be a lot richer.
yeah, she's looking pretty good there.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. But I used to watch the Sonny and Cher show. It was a variety show, I believe, in that category. And they don't do a lot of variety shows anymore like they once did, like Carol Burnett, Dean Martin, Andy Williams. And I think the younger generation probably won't even remember these people or know who they are. But yeah, we had a slew of variety shows.
The Dean Martin roasts.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't particularly care for that as much.
Some of those were kind of funny. But, I mean, they're a little raunchy, too, though. So.
Yeah, and that just wasn't my forte.
Right,
Not to
right.
pick on Dean Martin and all the other people, but I did like the variety show. And, of course, my personal favorite, most likely, Carol Burnett,
Oh, yeah.
the Carol Burnett show.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. She was a riot.
yeah, I laughed so hard, my sides would be hurting watching that show at times.
Tim Conway, he was like one of my favorites in that show.
Yeah, I know.
Remember him?
And he used to always try to make Harvey Korman laugh in the second taping of the show.
Oh.
And you just felt so sorry for poor old Harvey Korman. Tried to keep a straight face. I'm going to play a song called the Japanese Water Song. There you go, the Japanese water song.
Fair amount of finger work there.
Yeah, I'm just having a tough time with this type instrument, but yeah, that's a lot of fun to play. Anyway, getting back to those variety shows, yeah, they were a lot of fun, and they don't make shows like that anymore, and perhaps someday they will.
Well, maybe we can get your
Get the Lawrence Welk show going.
Lawrence Welk show going. I love the bubbles, man.
Yeah, and we put all the bubbles on that show, and I had the baton, as you saw, the clips to it, and stuff like that. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the brand new Lawrence Welk update that I recently shot here at this MCAT studio. It's called Music with Asaph, a remake update of the Lawrence Welk show. And if you put that information, Music with Asaph, A-S-A-P-H, a remake of Lawrence Welk on YouTube, you can see the entire show. So that was a lot of fun, and I'm trying to launch that show off, like I mentioned in the previous Asaph Cafe. I'm attempting to do it nationally, so that everybody can see this new remake of Lawrence Welk. And you know, when I was growing up, my mom would have the television on every Sunday night, and you could hear the music of the real Lawrence Welk show at the time. She'd be in the kitchen cooking, and you'd hear the music. And my father would be just walking around the house doing work or whatever. And so you could hear all this big bad music coming from your television set. And I used to go into the room to sit there and just watch Lawrence Welk.
Well, back then there was only 2 or 3 channels to begin with, so
Yeah.
Lawrence Welk, you didn't have much options on Sunday afternoon but Lawrence Welk. So
Yeah.
the dancers and the singers, and it was an entertaining show.
Well, you know, he left a great legacy.
He did. He really did.
And, you know, his show was considered corny at that time. A lot of people picked on the show. But if you really watch it, it's got top-notch musicians on there. And Arthur Duncan, the dancer, and all the other dancers. And Anna Connie, the good-looking Hispanic lady that sang all those Latin songs. And all the rest of them. I mean, it was just cool. It was cool to watch
Well,
that.
in a roundabout way, it gave America a little bit of culture. I think that
That's right.
when it was on, it was more geared to the older.
Well, yeah, the
generation
music of the time. The music of the time. So I'm just doing this remake.
Beatles were jamming, but you didn't see it on Lawrence Welk.
No. But, you know, you can do some Beatles in that Lawrence Welk style. Like, for example, here's my version of Hey Jude. See? Classical version of Hey Jude.
Beautifully done, too.
And I think that would work on a new Lawrence Welk show. All you have to do is just take all those popular songs, make them sound classical, put on this new Lawrence Welk show, and
You know, and I agree with you. With that.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. The fade to black and all those 60s with your spin on it's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
So I haven't heard it before.
I feel very blessed and very humbled to have gotten this opportunity to do this remake of the Lawrence Welk show. And, you know, again, he left a great legacy. And so I just want to carry the tradition on.
Amen.
And do all, you know, when we talked about family entertainment,
Right.
just
Clean.
keep up the tradition of Lawrence Welk. Do everything in that style,
Taste.
but more modern music.
I agree.
You know, you've got Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Michael Jackson. You can do all those songs in that Lawrence Welk style.
I'd love to hear some Michael Jackson.
Well, here, I'll give you an idea here. Let me do it again. I'm having trouble with this. See?
Bravo.
It's just, like I said, I'm having trouble playing this instrument, but...
Beat it. I've never heard it in that form. That was really cool.
So see, that's my point is when we do this new Lawrence Welk show, we'll just have a big band again eventually, but just update the songs. There's all those artists I mentioned, like Madonna, you can do Material Girl. See, something like that. There's so many songs that you can update and do them in a classical style. That's why I think it'll work with this Lawrence Welk show. Just have a big band, and I'll rearrange all the music for it, and just do these artists.
Right.
Do some Roberta Flack.
Right.
Do Killing Me Softly, or any of those songs.
Yeah.
It would work.
Yeah, you know, one of my favorite songs was by Rose Royce, Love Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
I'm familiar with it. I don't think I'd be able to play that one, but...
No, I know. I was just thinking.
Yeah, but, you know, there are a lot of stuff you can do. And, you know, you can even take, technically, rock songs, too, you know. Not only rock and roll, but rock songs. I've had people say, maybe you can figure out a way to take a rock song and put it in a Lawrence Welk format. So I'm working on that idea.
A Motley Crue song in a Lawrence Welk format. That'd be...
Well, yeah, because let's think about it.
Girls are... No, just kidding.
Well, because, like, for example, if you say you're going to do real rock music, you're not going to come out with your tattoos and stuff. That just isn't going to work.
No.
But if they came out in Texas, and they, or like, say, a barbershop quartet, and they did, like, let's say you have a female barbershop quartet, and they're singing Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I think that would be so funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. So there's ways to take these popular songs and put them in the Welk format.
Right.
Along with the attire. You're not going to come out tattoos. That just won't work.
No.
And I don't want to insult the legacy of Lawrence Welk. That's why this is important to me to keep it clean.
Keep the integrity.
Yeah. And that sort of thing. I don't want to butcher his show and his legacy. That's not what I have in mind.
Right.
And there's a lot of shows that are updated. Hawaii Five-0. You know, they had Jack Lord, the original actor.
Right.
And now they got this new version at CBS. Let's Make a Deal. You know, they had Monty Hall, the original host, and I don't think people really remember him. But now they have, what's his name, Wayne Grady, the African-American. He's like a comedian and so on. He's doing the new Let's Make a Deal.
Oh, yeah.
And there's, like, Jeopardy. That's been updated from when Art Fleming did it. Boy, am I dating myself. And let's see, there's just so many shows that have been updated. And so this is my turn and my time, so I'm just updating Lawrence Welk.
There you go. There you go. And the cool thing is he's the only one that's ever done it, so it's fresh.
It's fresh, yeah. And you just do, you know, more modern stuff. Let's see. What other modern songs could you do? Well, I did the beat of the Michael Jackson. You don't hear that every day on a piano version.
That was very cool, too.
I could have done that a little bit more technically smoother if I were on a regular piano. Let me think.
How about something rock?
Well, the thing with rock music, it has to have a distinguished melody that goes all the way through in order to repeat it. And a lot of rock music is rhythmic, talking, stopping, so there's no way to repeat it. But like that Painted Black, it has that distinctive melody.
Right.
So I was able to come up with that. Yeah, it has to have a distinctive melody that goes all the way through in order to repeat
no breaks
it.
and changes.
Yeah, no breaks. And then, of course, if you're in a band setting and you're improvising, that's different. But if you're going to do a solo thing, then you have to have a song with a melody. But there's so many songs that I want to do. And then there's other cultural things I want to do with this new Lawrence Welk idea, too. I want to introduce Greek music. I want to introduce salsa. You know, like when we get the regular new Welk band.
The cultures.
Yeah, just cultures. And get some salsa in there and mix it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I've got a lot of plans. And, of course, I want to introduce some of the Christian music, too. You know, in the old days, it was the old hymns like the old Rugged Cross
Right.
and Amazing Grace and so on. But there's a lot of new, I guess, modern.
Contemporary.
Yeah. And like Brandon Heath, for example, Give Me Your Eyes. Do you know that song?
I've heard the song, I think.
All right, here's my version of Give Me Your Eyes. Something like that. That's called Give Me Your Eyes.
Beautiful song. I
Yes.
recognized it when you started playing
Yeah, I'm
it.
just having trouble playing this instrument, but yeah, there's so many of those songs I'd like to bring back, like, you know, like on a Christmas holiday, maybe.
Oh,
Introduce some of those modern Christian songs. Give Me Your Eyes, and are you familiar with J.J. Heller? Have you ever heard of her?
No.
She's got some song, you'll recognize it. It's something about being loved. I can't think of the title, but it goes like this.
I recognize that.
Yeah, I can't think of the title of that
can't
song.
either.
Forgive me, but there's a lot of those songs I want to introduce in piano setting, and I hope to get a real grand piano so I can do it like I really want to.
Well, I just think a real one.
Yeah, and just do those songs there like that. And there's so many of those new songs. And here's one of my favorites here.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Lord, I lift your name on high.
lift your name on
So
high.
see, there would be so many of those songs I can introduce. And I've got plans for this new Lawrence Welk show. It won't just be piano necessarily, but I'll have like arrangements, get a band thing
Other
going,
talent
and
coming
strings.
in.
Yeah. And another thing too, I'd like to invite the Moody Bible Institute on a show if I get it national. Have you heard their symphonic band at the Moody in
No,
Chicago?
I haven't.
Boy, they are really good. I've heard them on the radio, the Moody Symphonic Orchestra.
Uh-huh.
Man, they can play. So see, those are kind of the plans I have. You know, I want to do a Christian show. I might even introduce some Muslim music. No, I'm not talking about the religious aspect. I'm not going to go there. I'm just
The
talking about the
cultures. The
culture.
cultures.
Yeah, because there's some wonderful Muslim people out there, I'm sure. You know, there's no question about that. It's just the bad guys overshadow the good, unfortunately.
There's bad in all people.
Well, I know, and I
There's good
realize
in all
that there's
people.
good and bad, and don't you just hate it when bad people do things? Because the good people have to suffer.
No.
But see, that's what I want to do. I want to introduce all these cultures: Muslim culture music, Chinese music. You know, every once in a while on this new Lawrence Welk show, and just intermix it with the American music that is more modern.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea
the
I
melting
have.
pot of music.
That is correct. And that's something they didn't do in the original Lawrence Welk show. And just keep it in that style, the gowns, the
Exactly.
bubbles, the fashion, and just update everything.
Yeah, because you're addressing a wider audience by expanding into the other
Absolutely. And just and do all these other cultures and just expose culture musically. And let me make this clear. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm not here to push any religion. I am not interested in that. Yes, I am a Christian, and I do believe in Jesus. That's different if I were having a conversation. But I'm talking about for the sake of this show, I'm just here only for music and culture, not the religious aspect, not the political aspect. I have no interest in that, and I will not allow that on my show.
No.
But as far
divisive, nothing divisive is
yeah, I'm just
helpful
here to
in
just expose music and have fun.
and music crosses all boundaries, all cultures, all everything.
That's it, and I just needed to state that. So, and there's a dress code, a format, and, you know, keeping with Lawrence Welk. So people that appear on this show will have to do that, and we'll keep the same tradition where, like, if we get an orchestra, like the Moody or something, all wear the same outfits,
Right.
but just modernized. You know, you can have a double-breasted jacket with the turtleneck and stuff. Just things like that.
You want it tastefully done.
Absolutely.
Just like this. This is very well done.
Well, this Asaph Cafe. This is just kind of a local little thing here to keep the chops up and so on, and just do it locally. But I am giving that new Lawrence Welk show top priority.
Well, you have to. You're
Now, if this Asaph Cafe gets picked up, that's different too.
Right.
But I labored hard on that new Lawrence Welk show. And like I mentioned in the other show, I got an email from the Lawrence Welk Network in Oklahoma, so I assume they're going to be checking this out.
Keeping their eyes on you, so to speak.
Yeah, so Asaph's going to be a good boy with this new Lawrence Welk show, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know, we'll just see how that goes there.
Maybe we can get everybody to call the Lawrence Welk Foundation over there.
Uh-huh.
Tell them to vote for Asaph.
Isn't that a pretty song? I like all those children's songs.
Adonai.
That's Hebrew.
It's a Hebrew name for God.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That happens to be my real name. You know, a lot of people think it's a stage name. My name really is Asaph Adonai.
That's a cool last name. Unless you're Jewish, most people probably wouldn't know Adonai.
No, I am not Jewish, but I have a lot of respect for the Jewish people. And speaking of Jewish people, I'd like to do some of that Jewish music, you know, like Marty Goetz. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to do some of those on this new Welk show and stuff like that.
It's one of my favorite contemporary Jewish artists is Matisyahu. You know who he is?
No, I don't.
Well, he's got kind of a reggae feel about him. You would never guess that he was Jewish, but I think he's from Israel. But a great artist, just a really fun artist to listen to.
Well, I'll tell you how I became Asaph Adonai. I was born Charles Williams Jr., Charles Hodges Williams Jr., actually, named after my father. I hated that name. I wrote about that in my autobiography. I just hated being called Charles. I mean, that works for some people, you know, like Charles Stanley maybe. But that didn't work for me, and I couldn't stand being called that.
Or do they call you Chuck?
No, they called me Charlie,
Oh,
actually.
Charlie.
How I became Charlie, when I was 12 years old, I went to this Southern Baptist church as a little boy, and there were 3 people named Charles. So the pastor said, we got to figure out a way to, you know, figure out who's going to be who. So one of the guys they called Charles, and these were like adults with their families. The other one they called him Chuck. And since I was the little boy, 12 years old, they tagged Charlie on me, and that's how I became Charlie Williams at that time. And and I was like, yeah, that was a little better. Mm-hmm. But there were so many people named Charles or Charlie, and when I was like in my early 20s, you know, to establish credit and stuff, they were always mixing me up with somebody else named Charlie Williams. And so, you know, like I had houses repoed, cars repoed, I've been locked up, and it wasn't me.
Even you.
and so I had to go through the task of proving that it was not me, getting me mixed up. And I got tired of that.
Wow.
So finally, when I reached my breaking point, I took the Old Testament and I went to the book of the Chronicles. And, they have like a lot of names.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they call it the Chronicles, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled across Asaph, and when I checked the background on that name, he was a Levite Jewish choir director for King Solomon and King David.
Oh, that's a great name.
And I thought, I play the piano. I may as well just pick Asaph. But Asaph Williams was not going to work.
Asaph Adonai.
And I had never heard the name Adonai when I stumbled across it, because this was so many years ago when I did this. And I picked up the Strong's Concordance, and I was just stumbling across, and I stumbled across the name Adonai. I'm like, Adonai, wow, what does that mean? And it said it meant God in Hebrew. And I thought, okay, that's harmless. Has a nice ring, Adonai, because I still wasn't familiar with it like I am now.
Right.
And so I went to court. I had to have my, I had to fill out a petition for name change at City Hall at the time, and I had to have it published in the papers. Just like when you're doing any legal thing. 3 months later, I had to stand before a judge and swear to use that name for all the right reasons and no illegal activity. And the judge slapped the gavel on the table and said, okay, I now call you Asaph Adonai. Have a nice day, young man. Mm-hmm. And he sent me on my merry way. There you go. It was all legal, all documented. Then I had to contact Social Security, and I had to call DMV, and I had to get my birth certificate amended because I was born in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I had to contact the vital statistics, tell them my name's no longer Charlie Williams or Charles Williams, but Asaph Adonai. So they have it on my legal work as though I were actually born Asaph Adonai.
Wow.
And it was a long process. And I'm humbled but very proud to have that name.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
Oxymoron, I guess. But it's a gift to me because I did not know the impact of Adonai at the time when I chose that name. And it wasn't until I got my confirmation about 6 months later what I had done. I called this 800 number. I was going to make an order one day, and the operator said, what's your name? I said, my name's Asaph Adonai, and his name happened to be Solomon.
Oh, wow.
That's a true story.
That's
so
perfect.
I was like, okay, that's a confirmation for the good Lord there.
You're
stuff
all right.
like that doesn't happen.
You're all right.
Yeah. And I had an inner peace when I chose that name Adonai. And like I said, I'm not Jewish, but I just, if I could be Jewish, I would be. I'm not, so I just have a Hebrew name, and I'm humbled to have it.
Well,
and it's a gift. It's a gift to me.
You definitely have a good spirit. You know how to draw good people towards you.
Well, I think the name Asaph Adonai works being a pianist also.
Well, being a good human being helps.
Well, I guess. But anyway, I've been Asaph Adonai legally, and for so many years now, a lot of years. And it's a gift. And I wrote about that in my book, so. And I don't know, have you seen my autobiography yet?
No, I didn't know you had one.
Yeah, it's on issuu.com right now, and it got accepted by a publisher, but I just don't have the money right now to have it in book form yet. But I did get an invitation to have a book signing when I get to that point.
Cool.
It's already been accepted, and I just got to get the funding for it, because it's pretty expensive to reproduce those kind of books.
Publish your own book and market it.
Yeah, well, I've already got, the marketing's already taken care of. Everything's taken care of. I just got to get the funding to have them printed out. I've gotten that far. But it's called Supermarket Pianist is the name of the book.
Supermarket Pianist.
It has nothing to do with a supermarket at all.
That's awesome.
So that's the name of the book. And it talks about some pretty dark stuff in there, but it talks about some delightful stuff too. And I don't know how to say this, but just to say it, and I think the audience can relate to this. My birth mom got pregnant with me before she married my father, and he was abusing her then. And so by the time I was born, she felt trapped. Because in those days, if you got pregnant out of wedlock in the 50s, you were forced to marry this person. And I'm not trying to pick on my father. He had his share of issues too, I'm sure. And so by the time I was born, my birth mom was stuck with this baby, and, she was forced to marry this man before she was ready to marry him. And that's why I never had much of a relationship with my birth mother. And so I thought that was worth writing about because there's so many people that go through things like that.
Yeah.
You know, so many. I haven't seen my family in almost 20 years, literally. And I know that if you're lucky enough or blessed enough to not have to have, you know, an environment of unhealthy dysfunction, God bless you. But not everybody gets that. So
Yeah.
I was one of those people. And what I decided to do was write about it. And I was very detailed in my book, the experiences growing up. Because one thing I wrote about in my book, you know, my mom, my birth mom, she comes from a family of 11 children. She was the 9th one born. And so by the time I came along, I think that the aunts and uncles were uncomfortable having me around because I was the firstborn of this monster, this, you know, that was with their sister. And that's exactly what it was like growing up. So I wrote about that. And I wrote about the healing and the forgiveness and the compassion and the understanding. Now, that doesn't excuse the behavior.
No.
But it helps you to, you know, heal and to understand and have compassion. So I have compassion for my family and my birth mother, even if I don't see them much anymore. And I thought that was worth writing about.
Holding resentment and anger doesn't hurt anyone but you.
Absolutely. And you're locked in a prison when you're angry.
One must forgive the one that's made you upset. Otherwise, you're trapped in a prison cell for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I admit there are some things I've not suffered, like maybe the death of a child by some guy who runs them over. So I'm not making light of forgiveness. That's a lot easier said than done, I guess, depending on how you've been hurt.
Oh, forgiveness is hard. It's hard. It's hard to do, but you have to.
You know, not for that person's sake, but for your sake.
And that's what I learned. You're not hurting someone else. You're killing yourself by not forgiving them.
I know, because when I was in my early 20s, you know, I struggled with forgiveness too, and I had to get to a point where I had to say, you know, if I don't let that go,
it's eating me alive.
It'll kill me. It was affecting my music at the time too, and I had trouble concentrating then, and you know, things like that.
You dwell.
Yeah.
Just dwell.
And I just had to get away from that. So
I feel you. My childhood wasn't the best, but you know what? When you have a bunch of lemons, you make lemonade. That's
it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to write about my experiences in an attempt to help other people. And there's a guy that lives here in Missoula. I won't mention his name, but he's from San Francisco. He had read my book, and he walked up to me one day, and he said, you know, Asaph, right on. He was smiling. He's like, I read your book, and I can relate to this. And it was like telling my story. And he just gave me this thumbs way up on this book.
You feel good because you affected someone else.
Yeah, and this is a guy that probably grew up in like the gangster part of California. And for him to read my autobiography like that and say that,
very cool.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much dysfunction goes on in families.
Oh, I know.
I'm just doing a lot of chords right now as we're talking.
No, I agree.
But, you know, there are so many families in our Western culture alone that are unhealthy, very unhealthy relationships. And the worst thing you can do is just sweep it under the rug like nothing happened.
Right.
You know, that's what they did in the old days, just dismiss it.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
It didn't happen.
It doesn't work. It just ends up making you get psychological problems and things like that. So, no, you got to face it.
You got to address it.
You got to get alone in a closet or something.
That's it.
With the good Lord and say, God, this sucked what happened. I hate it.
Well,
I believe in God and all, but I got to, just get this stuff out.
I acknowledge it happened, but it will not rule my life.
That's exactly, and that's what I had to do with
every day above ground is a good day. So if you think you're not having a good day, just think of the alternative.
Yeah, so that's what I had to do. And there's some delightful things in the autobiography, too, like the time when I had an encounter with Santa Claus.
Oh, you met Santa, did you?
Yeah, I met Santa Claus.
Right on.
And I'm not talking about going to the mall and sitting on Santa's lap. Santa came to our house one night. We lived in Taipei, Taiwan when my dad was in the Air Force. And Santa, my mom said, okay, get to bed early, Asaph, because Santa's going to be coming. And my brother's like, yeah, right. So we decided we're going to stay up, And we did. We waited till midnight, and you could see down the hall where the Christmas tree where we lived at the time. And Santa came to our house. He knocked on our door, And you can see him talking to my parents. All of a sudden, he walked down the hall to our bedroom, and he literally turned the light on and goes, "Ho, ho, 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 Merry Christmas.
that's awesome.
Are you children asleep?" And me and my brother, we were faking, but we could have got an Academy Award for that performance.
Oh, that's great.
And then he just turned the light out and left. And I wrote about that in my book, too. So that, I was like in the 3rd grade, and my brother was like in the 1st grade. So, that seemed kind of real when you're like a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a delightful memory. But even though we had a few delightful memories, the bad stuff outweighed the good. And that's why I needed to write about it. I
don't think God gives you more than you can handle.
Yeah, but
he'll put you right on the edge, but I mean...
Yeah, but you gotta remember we have free will too. So the most common question is, why is God letting this happen? God ain't doing this to people.
A lot of times you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah, or people are doing it to you.
Right.
And I had to learn this about the good Lord. I had this concept that he would just, like Superman, just swoop down and fly to your rescue and pull you out of a situation. And sometimes he does. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, he's like walking you through it. You're like, I don't want to walk through this. It's like, I'd like it to go away, but it don't always work that way.
A lot of times he leaves you in the fire so you're tempered. So you're stronger.
I know. And I think that even though it was not fun growing up, I'm the person I am today, I think, because of it. And I was able to write this autobiography to help other people see.
Cool. I've come a long way myself. I think life is a journey, and you find the best in everything that you do, and everything will be all right. Don't worry about the past, because that's the past, and it's done.
That's it.
All you can do is work towards the future. That's why I like new artists and musicians and contemporary music, because that's the future.
Mm-hmm. While we're talking, I'm going to play Edelweiss. Pretty.
Very nice.
I left out the middle part for time's sake because we're just about winding down. These hours just go by really quick. We still have a little time, but
time did fly, didn't it?
We started at 3. Yeah, it's we're like 3/4 into the program. But anyway, getting back to unhealthy dysfunction, I wrote about that, and there's a lot of dark things in the book I won't get into now, but I hope it'll help a lot of people. And like you mentioned, no matter what happens to you, it's a lot easier said than done. You have to forgive.
Yep.
For you.
Yep.
It frees you.
That's it.
Because sometimes a person can hurt you and they go to bed at night sleeping. They don't even think they did anything wrong.
Meanwhile, you're...
and you're sitting up there dwelling on it, moping on it.
Goodness, I can't sleep.
Yeah. So you just got to be cool and careful and all that.
Careful. And you reap what you sow. So if you give and you do it in the right way, then good things will come to you. If you have no malicious intent and nothing but peace, love, and jelly beans is what I call it.
Well, in my case, too, another thing I wrote about in my autobiography, some things never change. Now, I believe in the power of prayer, but we have free will, and some things just don't change. Some people's behavior don't change, and the best thing you can do, besides understanding that, is get yourself away from it. It's called detaching.
Right.
I learned that from a Southern Baptist Native American pastor, that there comes a time
you have to remove yourself.
And that's what I had to do. So some 20 years ago,
especially when you're young and abused, if you're a child and you're in an abusive family or whatever, sometimes I had to run away.
I did that too.
I had to leave.
About 20 years ago, what I did, I left California with the very clothes on my back. I'd played for the Salvation Army for 6 years at that time, and they gave me a ticket. I went to New York and stayed with my auntie as I prepared to move to Montana and start my life over at that time. And the funny thing about it is when I finally went to Montana to start over at that time, all that unhealthy stuff did not follow me here. It stayed behind.
It stayed back there.
And that was good for me. And now, some 20 years later, I'm about to do this new Lawrence Welk show. And I've done all the other piano concerts over the years. But I never would have been able to do that if I'd have been stuck in that unhealthy environment.
I agree.
Now, that doesn't mean I don't love my family. But I had to get away from that because it got to the point where if I'm locked up in a straitjacket, they'll still be doing the same unhealthy, stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And I just had to get away from that.
Sometimes you find yourself in stagnant water and you have to jump into a clean bowl of water.
I did. And so I chose Montana, and the rest is history.
Me too. The same reason.
And so that's what I meant by I've not seen my family in almost 20 years. But I've had contact a few times, barely. And you can sense that unhealthy situation. So you just wish them well.
Yeah, my family, I don't have any, so
Yeah.
I can relate to what you're saying in a way.
Yeah, you just have to get away from that.
The sad thing is when it's all said and done, everybody dies, so you have to forgive those and let them know they're forgiven before they die.
That's it. And in some cases, you may not ever get to let them know they're forgiven. That's just something you just have to forgive them, even though they don't know it. I experienced that too.
Yeah.
Like
sometimes they won't have it.
And another thing I talked about in my book, I was married once, I was married to a Christian young woman. I won't mention her name, but it was painful because these were the evangelical Christians that destroyed this relationship and ended it. And then they went on with their lives like nothing happened. And I got stuck with the memory, so I had to do the forgiveness thing with that.
Yeah.
And believe me, that was very painful.
Yeah, it's hard to find a compatible soulmate.
Yeah, because, when Christians are going around telling people how to get forgiven of sins and stuff and all, and that's cool, but when you have them preaching that message and they're destroying someone's family and then don't even think they've done nothing wrong or don't acknowledge it, you like if you have like a bunch of heathens that destroy your family, that's one thing. You expect that.
Hypocrisy.
But when you get it in the evangelical world, it can be very painful. So I wrote about that in my book as far as the forgiveness for that and the healing for that. But that's my point. No matter how you get stung in life, you have to forgive. There's another way around it.
You just stay away from the bee's nest, that's all.
That's it. That's a great way to put it. This is the appropriate song. I don't like the way I do that. Let me do that again. Oh, I'm having a tough time on this instrument. Let's play that Lord's Prayer. There you go, the Lord's Prayer. I can play that a lot better on a regular concert grand piano. But that's an appropriate song, Deliver Us from Evil. You know, I think that should be the prayer of every person. In fact, that's a prayer I pray every morning when I first wake up. I say, Lord, thank you for another day. Deliver me from evil this day. Sometimes I'll have the Christian radio on, and they have this little prayer program like at 9:30 in the morning on the YNOP radio station, and Dave Brown's on there physically saying a prayer over the radio. And sometimes I'll bow in front of the radio and just, you know, if I don't know how to say the words, I just get an agreement there.
Yeah.
But whatever, that's a great way to start your day.
Oh, it is. I wake up every morning, I say a prayer first thing in the morning.
That's what I do too. So
Day off right.
Yeah, that's it. And,
I thank the Heavenly Father for giving me another day right off the bat.
Yeah, that's it. So anyway, life's full of
Ups and
surprises,
downs.
challenges.
Don't let the bumps bruise you.
That's why I wrote that book, and the name of the book is called Supermarket Pianist, and you can go to ISSUU, that's issue.com, ISSUU, and look up, put in the bar Supermarket Pianist, and you'll see the book. Or you can probably see it on Facebook these days now, too, I think, and all that. And it's quite a book. It took me 2 years to write that autobiography.
Wow.
And what's interesting about this book, you know how you want to come up with a gimmick or something? What makes this book stand out is I use analogies. I use television shows to make analogies with Old and New Testament truths. That's why that book works. And I think that's why the publisher accepted it too at the time.
Wow.
Because, you know, the television shows that I'll use, I'll talk about Law and Order or something from the past like Lost in Space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just any analogy of a television show to make a point
Right.
with Old and New Testament truths. That was the angle I used when I wrote this book, instead of it just being a little book like everybody else's book, you know.
Right. I always thought about writing an autobiography, but I don't have the intellectual capabilities of putting that much thought into it and putting it into word. That's the hard part.
I think the best way to handle that is just shoot straight.
Oh,
Don't try to be somebody else. Just write what happened.
It is what
just,
it is.
You know, from you. And that's what makes it work.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You don't want to write like somebody else. You don't want to like have all these words like say third party necessarily. Just, you know,
Right.
no, just shoot straight.
Well, and you
tell
see
it
that,
like it
you see
is.
that in music a lot. You'll see artists that try to imitate another artist, and that's not
No,
what.
you don't want to do that. You know, the danger of imitating another.
Put your own spin on whatever
Right.
you do.
I think the danger of trying to be somebody else. I use this analogy. You know, when we were kids, remember we had to learn the alphabets,
Yep.
and then you learn how to do your cursive writing.
Yep.
You will never handwrite like me, and I will never hand like you. And when you're trying to imitate someone, it's almost like trying to write like them.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You want to just learn the ABCs of music or learn your ABCs in the alphabet, and you develop your own handwriting style. And I think it's the same principle with music.
Yep.
Don't try to be Liberace. You know how you become Liberace? You learn the ABCs of music and you do it your way, and then you become Liberace or Roger Williams. Don't try to copy somebody. Don't try to copy Van Cliburn.
Whatever you do, put it 100% wholeheartedly into it, and
Yeah,
eventually.
And you know, I know our classical friends, because I studied at the San Francisco Conservatory, and they try to mold you into play like this guy. Not.
There's no individuality in that except for his.
Yeah, I know, and that was the problem, and I'm not trying to pick on San Francisco Conservatory, but that was the problem I had when I was a student there. They try to make you be like someone else.
Yep.
And no wonder Miles Davis left Juilliard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's like, this is too square, man. I'm going to take that trumpet and go play somewhere else. And that's exactly what he did. And the rest is history, especially when you listen to Kind of Blue album.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that is considered the greatest jazz album of all time.
Kind of Blue, huh?
Kind of Blue.
Huh.
He did those songs like Freddie the Freeloader and So What? Yeah, it goes something like this. Isn't that cool? and there's that little dissonant chord or whatever. But yeah, it's called Kinda Blue. It's considered the greatest jazz album of all time. And that's not to pick on all the other jazz greats, because there were a lot of jazz greats of the past.
Right.
Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, and the list just goes on.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that Kinda Blue I think is probably the greatest.
Did you know, tell your audience in case they don't know, that there was a company named Paramount that produced a lot of the early blues albums. Paramount burnt to the ground.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It burnt to the ground, and the only DATs on that music, some of the very early original blues artists are on Paramount 78s, and some of those 78s are the DATs for these from these original artists, and some of those albums are worth $50,000-$60,000 for an old blues Paramount 78 album.
See, I did not know that. I wasn't aware of that.
So if you ever come across any of those old 78s, go through them and look for the blues albums.
Okay.
Because that is the DAT on that artist. And I'll tell you why, because the albums cost 50 cents. And the blues albums, the only people that bought them were the blacks, and 50 cents was a lot of money for an album.
Right.
So there's not very many of them out there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that tidbit. I wasn't aware of that.
I was in the antique business for a long time.
Great. And we're just about winding down. We got about 5 minutes left to go, and I'm going to play one last song from the past. But before I do, once again, this program is called Asaph Cafe. It's just a local show where every week I invite a guest on, and we have Brad Boshart
Hi.
on our program today for
Thank
part
you
one
again
and
for having
part
me.
two.
I really
Yeah,
appreciate it. This is fun.
This has been a blast. And if there's anybody interested in wanting to be a part of Asaph Cafe, they can just contact me at asaphadonai@hotmail.com to be a guest on this program. And I've been doing this show for a few months, this Asaph Cafe, but the main show is Music with Asaph, a remake of the Lawrence Welk show. And that was recently shot. It's on YouTube, and it's a brand new Lawrence Welk show, and we're having a blast with it. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to do one last final song from the past. I'm not going to tell you the name of it. We'll play Name That Tune. You remember Name That Tune with Jim Lang? That was a fun show.
I remember that. That was a great show. One or two chords, three chords. I
Yeah.
can name that tune in 2 chords.
That's it. And the less that you can name the song, the more money you would get. So,
Right.
And, Asaph, I'd watch that and I'd name it in like 2 notes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I should have been on that show. I would have got rich probably. But here's the last song. Recognize it?
And the walls come tumbling down.
Close. Let me do it again because I'm having trouble with this instrument.
Oh. I know it, and I was humming it, but my brain's not giving it to me.
All right, let's get to the middle part of the song.
It's an aged brain I have.
That last part of that verse should have been a dead giveaway.
You know what? I know it, and I can't put a name.
All right, I
to
will
it.
give you a hint. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the guy that sang that every year, had a very shiny.
Oh yeah.
Does that help you?
Yeah, the bearded guy.
No, not exactly. Not Burl Ives.
Not Burl Ives.
No, his name was Gene Autry.
Oh, Gene Autry.
Yeah, Gene Autry made that song famous.
That's right. The
singing
Western-
cowboy
the
from the
singing
Western.
cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, I told you from the past.
Yeah.
We weren't even here when he was in his heyday. And I told this story once. You know the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that we do at Christmas every year?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gene Autry sang that. Originally, Bing Crosby was asked to do that song, and he turned it down, so it was offered to Gene Autry, and the rest is history.
Oh, wow.
That's the history of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Well, Bing has enough of his own Christmas
Well, I know, I
hits.
realize
He can
that.
make a
but
little room for someone else.
yeah, that's it. And on that note, and for those who don't know what the name of that song was, it's called Tumbling Tumbleweeds. Tumbling Tumbleweeds, yeah. Tumbling Tumbleweeds, Gene Autry. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. And again, our guest is Brad Boshart. And until our next show, ladies and gentlemen, Maranatha.